Everyone has heard of the Yellowstone supervolcano. But have you ever heard of a supervolcano in Europe? Not only is there an active, non-dormant supervolcano in the heart of Europe, in Italy, but there's also a picturesque town called Pozzuoli with a population of 80,000 located right in its crater. And that's where we are right now. It makes you wonder, do the residents here know that they're literally living in the mouth of a volcano?
Hello dear viewers. We're in Pozzuoli, on the territory of Campi Flegrei. Do you know that Campi Flegrei is a supervolcano?
Yes, sure, I know that. Yes, I'm quite well informed. I know we are on a magma bubble.
Yes, of course. The second largest caldera in the world after Yellowstone.
Of course we know that. Quite. When you fly to Naples from the airplane, you see all these volcanic events. You see everything. But we are aware of it. We have learned to live with it. When there is an earthquake, when there is bradyseismn, here, we are used to it. But we feel quakes. We are very used to it. But
oh yeah, I keep thinking about it because we've had some really strong quakes lately.
The Campi Flegrei, along with its adjacent islands, constitute an immense volcanic complex. Here, you won't find a typical volcanic cones, but rather an enormous caldera containing a network of 24 craters. Many of these craters are currently submerged beneath the Tyrrhenian Sea. The caldera's area measures, by various estimates, between 100 to 200 square kilometers, surpassing the size of Naples. This is why Campi Flegrei is referred to as a supervolcano. Over its 80,000 years of existence, this supervolcano has experienced only two super eruptions, around 36,000 and approximately 12,000 years ago. Each time, they resulted in a catastrophe for Europe. And it appears that right now, the supervolcano is on the brink of eruption as well. Why this could happen, and how the history of our civilization might come to an end, will be explored in this video. Over the past half-century, scientists have documented numerous instances of vertical ground movement and earthquakes in the vicinity of the volcano. In 2012, the Italian government raised the volcano's danger level from green to yellow. Naturally, when you walk over the mouth of a volcano every day, you become desensitized to the potential danger. However, the events of recent years cause a growing sense of alarm and fear, even among those residents who have long grown accustomed to this reality. Bradyseism is in our blood, Italians say. Bradyseism is the uplift of the ground caused by the awakening of a volcano. It is through bradyseism that local residents can observe the visible activity of the volcano. The most significant uplift of the ground is observed in the vicinity of the port of Pozzuoli. Local residents have vivid memories of the bradyseism events that occurred in the 1980s. From August 1982 to December 1984, the city endured hundreds of underground tremors and bradyseismic activity. It resulted in the damage to 8,000 buildings in the city center and the evacuation of 36,000 people who never returned to their homes. The bradyseismic activity raised the seabed by nearly 2 meters and rendered the Pozzuoli Bay too shallow for large vessels.
That night, Pozzuoli uplifted at least 1 meter. In fact, the whole dock, all the boats on the dock. I'm a fisherman, so I knew they were all on land. There was no water anymore. The dock uplifted, then immediately descended.
Boats in the Pozzuoli Bay are practically resting on the sand even now because bradyseism resumed in 2004. The ground has long risen to the level of the year 1984 and continues to rise. In just a month of February 2023, the land was elevated by nearly 10 centimeters. This uplift was accompanied by 1,000 small earthquakes. After 2000, there has been an activation of the volcano, and various factors have come into play since then. 2000. The year marks the onset of active gas emissions, primarily CO2. This sign indicates the influx of new magma from the mantle, heating the volcano's chamber. 2004. Gas pressure begins to lift the ground. 2005. Hot magma heats everything up to the surface of the soil and causes hydrothermal waters to boil. 2006. Earthquakes become noticeable at the surface. 2016. The beginning of an exponential increase in the number of earthquakes and the synchronization of all processes. This has never been observed before. Previous bradyseism lasted only 2 to 3 years, while the current one has been ongoing for 19 years, which is causing particular concern.
Excuse me. Unlike the year 1980, when there were actual earthquake tremors, here we only have tremors related to steam underneath. Whereas in 1970, 80, and 83,
Due to bradyseism,
there were earthquakes above level 6 on the Richter scale, which is not that small. One was on October 4th, and the other on September 4th. But there were actual earthquake tremors.
that's why they predicted a volcano. They predicted the most terrible things. Thank God nothing has happened there since that time. Well, I hope it will be the same now.
Local residents and scientists are comparing the current situation to the bradyseism of the 1980s, when no eruption occurred. They believe that before the upcoming volcanic eruption, there will be stronger earthquakes and ground uplift than what occurred last time. However, there is an undeniable evidence that conditions have changed, and we can no longer rely on previous experiences. What is happening with the volcano today? What makes today's bradyseism more dangerous than that of the 1980s? Scientists, led by Christopher Kilburn, have determined that the properties of the Earth's crust in the Campi Flegrei area have changed, with the crust losing the strength and elasticity it once had. This means that the signs of an eruption, which everyone is anticipating, may not occur, and the volcano could erupt at any moment without warning. What changes have occurred in the crust beneath Campi Flegrei over the past 40 years? At the very least, since 1950s, deep-seated magma has been steadily and continuously ascending to the surface like a bulldozer, demolishing everything in its path. Sometimes it finds weakened zones in the rocks and penetrates them through narrow intrusions. From the 1950s to the 1980s, it would intrude, raise the ground, and then stabilize at a certain level. Take a look at the graph. You can see this from the sharp rise and sustained level of the ground. The crust used to be sturdy enough to contain these magma intrusions. During the bradyseism of the 1980s, the magma pressure was exceptionally high, resulting in powerful magma intrusions at depths ranging from 7 to 2.5 kilometers. It was terrible. The city of Pozzuoli was rocked by thousands of earthquakes. Evacuations were underway. The streets were filled with police, military personnel, and weeping residents whom the government was forcibly evacuating from their homes. No one understood what would happen in the next minute. Many houses were cracking right before the eyes of residents who hadn't managed to flee to the streets. At some point, during the bradyseism of the 1980s, the pressure from the magma and gases became so intense that it exceeded the crust strength limit, leading to its catastrophic rupture. The rupture allowed the accumulated gases to escape, which, in turn, temporarily halted the ground uplift and even caused a slight subsidence. This was a natural degassing of a volcano's chamber, which, on one hand, temporarily delayed a mega eruption. However, On the other hand, it was just a temporary respite. For decades, there were hardly any earthquakes in the volcano's vicinity. This reassured people, and they returned to normal life, gradually forgetting the horror they experienced in the 1980s. But this temporary calm deceived them, and unfortunately, invisible processes of catastrophic subsurface change were occurring deep within the Earth during this time. The gases that break out from the depths possesses extremely high chemical and physical reactivity. As they penetrate the rocks, they weaken them and make them more brittle. Essentially, these gases, by weakening the crust, pave the way for the magma ahead, like an icebreaker, clearing a path through the ice for other vessels. While peaceful life continued on the Earth's surface, the crust above the magma chamber essentially lost its ability to withstand the pressure from the magma. In other words, since 1984, the process of crustal degradation in the Campi Flegrei area not only hasn't stopped, but has gradually intensified. And now, the volcano's activity is entering a new stage, as magma is intruding closer to the surface of the caldera. This is indicated by the fact that the majority of earthquake swarms have approached depth ranging from 1.5 to 1 kilometer. In August of this year, a powerful swarm of earthquakes occurred at depth ranging from 4 kilometers down to 200 meters. This indicates that the magma has already come so close to the surface that it could trigger a volcanic eruption. Currently, the crust in this area can be likened to glass, with a network of fine cracks running through it. How much longer can such a crust contain magma giant that is yearning to burst to the surface? Let's summarize all the information about the current activity of the Campi Flegrei that we gathered. Magma from the depths is gradually approaching the surface of the volcano, causing continuous ground uplift and earthquakes. The crust has weakened and cannot resist the intrusion of magma. If no preventative measures are taken, an eruption will occur in the coming years. There is an opinion that the coming eruption of the Campi Flegrei will be a minor lava flow, like its previous Monte Nuovo eruption in 1538. Some believe it will merely release steam. However, the facts tell us otherwise. Over its 80,000 years of existence, the Campi Flegrei volcano has already experienced 2 catastrophic eruptions. It always gives warning signs of such explosions. Scientists, while studying the chemical composition of lavas from past eruptions, have noticed that each time before a mega eruption, specific changes occur in the magma. A minor eruption with a particular chemical composition of lava takes place. This always occurs several hundred years before a catastrophic mega eruption. Such a lava composition was indeed discovered in the eruption of Monte Nuovo in 1538. These warnings have occurred twice in the history of caldera eruptions. On the graph, you can see them labeled as number 12 and 53. Please note that following these events, several hundred years later, came the catastrophic eruptions of the Campi Flegrei caldera labeled as number 54 and 84. Now, take a look at the eruption number 5, flashing in red. This is the eruption of Monte Nuovo in 1538. Monte Nuovo indeed served as a signal and a warning shot before Campi Flegrei will unleash its devastating eruption and wipe out all life in Europe. This cataclysmic event could occur at any moment. The previous caldera eruptions were the most devastating volcanic events in European history over the last 200,000 years. According to the reconstructions by volcanologists, during these eruptions, ash and lava columns reached height of 44 kilometers. Incandescent clouds spread instantly over a radius of 60 kilometers. All life in this area was obliterated within seconds. ash was carried by the wind for thousands of kilometers, blanketing the entire continent of Europe up to the Ural Mountains. In Romania, 1,000 kilometers away from the volcano, the ash layer reached 1 meter in thickness as determined by ash deposit studies. As a result of these eruptions, the temperature in Europe dropped by 6 to 9 degrees Celsius. The volcanic winter that followed the eruption approximately 36,000 years ago led to the extinction of Neanderthals. Those who survived were forced to flee from Europe. There exists a cycle of cataclysms that our planet undergoes approximately every 12,000 years. During this cycle, there is an escalation of catastrophic natural events such as hurricanes, typhoons, wildfires, and floods. But the most alarming aspect is the increasing seismic and volcanic activity, with supervolcanoes becoming active. The super eruption of the Campi Flegrei, labeled as number 54, occurred approximately 36,000 years ago, and number 84 occurred about 12,000 years ago. The timing of these super eruptions confirmed the 12,000-year cycle of cataclysms. What triggers the eruptions of supervolcanoes during this 12,000-year cycle? During this cycle, external cosmic influences activates the Earth core. This leads to an increase in endogenous energy, resulting in a widespread ascent of deep-seated magma. Deep-seated magma is hotter, more liquid, and mobile, and it is what initiates mega eruptions. Analysis of mega eruptions approximately 12,000 and 36,000 years ago revealed the presence of deep-seated magma in them. Just like in the past, magma is currently rising from the depths. There is a critical question that no one is discussing. Deep focus earthquakes occurring in various parts of the world affects the seismicity of the Campi Flegrei, thereby inducing magma ascent. The cause of such deep focus earthquake is a powerful explosion deep within the Earth's mantle. As a result of this explosion, we observe deep focus earthquakes. In the case of a supervolcano, this is reflected as a swarm of earthquakes. The catastrophic increase in the number, depth, and strength of deep focus earthquakes indicates a buildup of internal energy within the Earth. Such explosions can trigger a spontaneous eruption of the Campi Flegrei and any other supervolcano. We are already witnessing this phenomenon in the example of supervolcanoes like Yellowstone, Ira, and Campi Flegrei. They are undergoing synchronous awakening. Furthermore, there is an increase in activity of Taupo, Lach, and Toba, precisely the same supervolcanoes that also erupted in the previous 12,000-year cataclysmic cycles. The planet has already entered a cycle of cataclysms, as evidenced by all the climatic and geodynamic processes. Campi Flegrei is a volcano of this cycle. The eruption of one supervolcano, acting as a detonator, will trigger a chain reaction of eruptions in all others. If Campi Flegrei alone is capable of blanketing the entire Europe in ash, what will happen when other supervolcanoes start erupting? What will become of our planet? This will be a catastrophe, not only for Italy, but for all of humanity.
Dear viewers, due to increased censorship, many of our channels have been removed from YouTube, and the remaining ones are under threat. Please follow the link in the description and subscribe to our channel on the video hosting platform, Rumble. All the latest news will be published there, including information forbidden to discuss on YouTube. Please follow the link now to stay connected at all times. Also, follow us on Telegram to receive the most up-to-date news and event information. We appreciate your support.